Hello everyone, my name is Uthris, and welcome to some Transport Fever 2. We are going to start off with 2021 here on the channel. Haven't made a video in a while, so this might be weird. It's a little weird to myself, honestly. It's been months and months since something came out. And I want to do what we tried to do last time in Transport Fever 2, which was essentially make a larger city of some sort and get every single industry into that city and start growing it kind of exponentially from there. So this time what I'm going to be doing is hopefully trying to do 2 cities or something like that. Last time as well we worked on more of a bay type area, and this is more of a mountainous river area on this one, using the extended temperate generator here. So hopefully we'll get a decent map. This is the one that I just rolled. We are using a bunch of mods. So let's go into the settings. Last time we did 1990 as our year. I want to do that again. It's not quite 100% into the modern era or contemporary era. Technically modern is architecture-wise is more like 60s, 50s. But the 90s, to me, that's when I grew up, so I'm just going to use that. When it comes to the actual settings, it's going to be sandbox mode. It's just going to be easier to do what I want to do if we do that. So that's what we're going to be using. 72 total mods. I guess we could go over, we got plenty of assets for buses, cars. We have, modular tram stations and train stations, natural town growth, better cargo, additional industries and expanding industries. A whole bunch of assets, essentially, is getting thrown in here. And, of course, you guys can use whatever you want to use, and you're safe. So we'll hop in, and we'll go from there. If you guys have any mod suggestions, let me know, because I think that'll be important going forward. These episodes are going to be kind of divided up into parts, okay? And just like any of my normal speed builds, there's going to be a section of real time kind of at the start, going over what I want to do and maybe do some real time building, and then a longer section of speed build with commentary, as always, or just music, depending if I want to do commentary or not. And then a final bit that's a little bit more real time to kind of just take a look around at what was completed in this episode. Not sure about the overall release schedule of this, but we'll just see. If people want more of Transport Fever 2, definitely let me know. So let's pause for a second. There we go. That is good. So, because we are using developer tools, we can completely wipe out towns and cities and move them around, which is what I really want to do here on this save. Do I see any of the new industries? Oh yeah, yep. Looks like we have some animals, some animal industries, a fishing industry of some kind. Let's get rid of this town. Boom. There we go. I think this map looks pretty cool. We got plenty of floodplain to kind of work with. We also have ale, it looks like. Who wouldn't want some ale? We have farm in the mountains. Pretty cool spot for it. Will be interesting to get cargo out of there. Standard food factory over this way. Some sort of yearly coffee farm. All right. And let's look at some industries, see if there's some ones that just didn't load in because I set the industry count to really low. There's a meat processing plant, coffee refinery, which I assume if we had coffee growing, the beans, I would expect the refinery for it to at least be in, so that it has somewhere to go. I think I can actually click on it, and consumers, no one. All right. Consumers, no one. Alright. Well, we'll just see what happens here. Having a town here at the kind of mouth of these multiple rivers would be okay, but honestly, I think I'm going to start all the way at the top of the map. So to do that, I'm going to start deleting things. I'm going to just start deleting a whole bunch of roads, because we need to make room. Because I'm going to generate 2 cities up here, which will act as our first project, okay? And before I generate these cities, I might plop in some main roads and avenues, just so that it generates something a little bit more usable than the base generation here. So let's take a look at this. One side is not too much higher than the other one, which is fine. We're gonna need multiple bridges across this river to keep traffic going. I think that was the biggest weakness of the previous series. So let's hop into the road building tool, and we will start putting down things, you know? Do I want this first city to be the biggest one? Probably not. It's almost going to be the test bed foundation of this series. So let's not shoot for that. So let's just get a highway across. You can see I downloaded a lot more bridge variety, even no pillar ones, variations such as that. And I think some of these are even from Transport Fever 1 to give additional variety. So this is like against a hill, I guess, or something like that you'd want the hill to show through. So a lot of options here. I kind of don't like how wide this bridge is. For only having 2 lanes, it has some massive sidewalks along the side of it. Like, I feel like that's kind of a waste of space. It's almost too wide. That's a single lane. Okay. Some default bridges. I don't know what this... What is that? Guess I can edit the fences on this thing. Oh Lord, this is already a bad idea. Hold on, I don't know how any of these mods work with each other. So let's just take a look here. What we got? We got small streets. Well, if the roads are going to be larger, they don't need to be probably highways. Oh, 37 miles an hour is not very quick. How bad is a highway on the ground? Does it still have that extra? I mean, it does. That's definitely a lot of room to the left and right of it. Let's see if we can't find one that has a little less, you know? Not so girthy. How fast is this? 37. There we go. That might be okay. One, two, three, four. Nope, still pretty wide. That just might be how roads are. Totally fine. We can manage with this. I like this bridge, though it is a little weird for this. Also, bridges should be arched a little bit, right? So let's go ahead and arch this just a bit there, so we can get across. Ooh, I like these green wrought iron supports. Never really liked how the cap of them kind of breaks though. I think this is fine. I think this will suffice. Or I can find one that's a double, just so I don't have to waste space. That does make it a bit thinner in the long run, if it's like that. Tell you what, that's what we'll use for bridge number 1 here. I think that's okay. Bridge number 1 is down. All right, this is gonna take a little bit. You guys have seen some of the options that we have. We have a lot of options. So let me hit this over to be a little bit quicker. Spent 10 minutes on one bridge, so you guys know how that always goes with me. Duke of Details on the way. All right, let's just go ahead and hop into the speed build section here, everyone. It's gonna be a long speed build. I didn't want to speed it up faster than about 6 times normal speed, because anything faster than that starts to become a little bit of a blur for you guys. So sit back, relax, and let's hop into it. 2 bridges are going to be the only way across the river for now. I might add a ferry in the future, depending on traffic and the need for the increase in public transport. There will also be a single train bridge for a commuter train line that's going to go up and down this river. So get kind of strapped in for that when we get over there. So as I said, bunch of mods installed on this save, so it's gonna take me a little while to navigate all the menus and familiarize myself where each asset is and what one I want to use for each situation. Each side of the river is going to have a fairly simple grid layout. I don't want to do anything too crazy, and there will also be alternating one-way streets here and there, just to try and spread out the traffic flow so that we don't get a bunch of congestion on a lot of these kind of T intersections, and we can provide some more left-hand only or right-hand only turn areas, because traffic is going to be a big hurdle that we're going to have to climb in this series, because we are again going to be trying to use a lot of vehicles. What we're trying to place now are the raised stations. So this is a DLC, not a DLC, but a modded asset that I found here. You can see I actually have a lot of modded train station assets to try and, I don't know, get some more unique specialized train stations without the headache that is kind of Transport Fever. So, you know, I have some street level crossing stations, I have some raised stations, I have raised stations not only on this hill variant here, but I have a variation that will provide a just a pillared support station all the way through, so that we can hopefully get some things under it here and there. We downloaded some additional bus stations and terminals so that we can get some more compact designs. I feel like Transport Fever kind of has a flaw when it comes to its default terminals and stations, is the ability to stack them or inability to do so. And so you end up making these larger stations because you kind of have to, right? You have to get as many vehicles into this tight space as possible. But this bus depot on both sides of the river is gonna have like 8 or 9 terminals on here, and then you have the terminals to go either way on the train line, and they do talk to each other, so they're right next to each other. We're going to have a good flow of people and passengers, hopefully, as things get worked on. A lot of bridge assets we found on the workshop too. And if you guys missed the live stream the other weekend, we kind of use that to test some of these mods. One of the mods that we have installed will increase passenger capacity to the number of seats that are on the model itself, even modded vehicles. So that's going to really increase the I don't want to keep saying capacity, but it's going to increase the ability to public transport without having to bog down the route with a whole bunch of vehicles to get the same number of people to go across. A little bit of an issue on this side where we are trying to get the train line over to the edge of the map. I want all of my train lines to go to the edge, all of my highways to go to the edge, because I think that makes it feel a little bit more realistic and feels like you're looking at a slice of the actual area rather than just a self-contained spot. But starting a bridge on the opposite side kind of made this a little bit more feasible. And then after a little ways away from the main roads, we'll go ahead and bring that down to ground level again so that it can kind of function there. I downloaded these parking lot assets, roads. I don't think they are actually something that the AI will use. I think it's going to be pretty much an aesthetic kind of a look to them. They're also not very flexible in their use cases, but it's just something that I want to experiment with as well to see if we can get some parking lots here and there just to kind of fill in spaces. And we do have assets downloaded that will provide our ability to at least make them look partially full. I don't know how long that'll take to do. The little detailing and stuff I kind of want to take my time with, because I just don't know how Transport Fever is going to run long term if I just sit there and fill up 20 parking lots and throw cars everywhere in them. So that's why we're going to try and just do this town up a little bit light to begin with, and we can always come back on like a live stream and add more detail. All the road layouts here are pretty much the ones that we've locked in. You saw me do that just a second ago by hitting those lock icons. And what that does is it makes it to where the town that grows here will not be able to edit what road types they are or change those actual road placement themselves. So that way we get to kind of pre-construct the city and kind of get a good working relationship with the randomly generated town aspect in the game. Cool mod here. This is a mod that will lay down double roads side by side, and you can use that to make highways. I put them a little close together when it comes to this raised highway here, because raised highways usually, they bump right up next to each other because there's no like terrain limitations or anything like that. So that's why I have them so close together. In hindsight, the next time that I kind of do this, where we have these intersections and on-off ramp areas, I'm going to separate these roads just like a little bit. There is a slider for that, how far apart you want these to be, so that they can line up a little bit easier and transition into tunnels easier. I struggled with this spot trying to get the tunnels to line up, and if your entrances don't line up exact, you're never going to get them to build, even if you level out the terrain or anything like that. You're just going to get collision detection problems as you try and do this. So what we'll end up doing is kind of separating the road once it's off the raised portion, so that it can function a little bit more clean. I even tried, doing this and putting a snap point across the hillside just to make it work, but that didn't seem to be really helping at all. And so, you just delete this back. Maybe I'll curve it around the mountain a little bit, but that still wants to fight there. You start deleting all the forest, and you just leave scars. And so at that point, I'm like, okay, we'll make it wider, because that's just the way it's going to work a little bit easier for us. And even one side was going to be a tunnel, the other side gnats. So we decided to, make that look a little bit more clean just by cutting a wedge away there, and smoothing it out a bit will take a bit of that edge off. I like how curvy the highway is. If you guys ever been on an American highway, at least in the hills up where I'm from, there are a lot of bends. They are pretty gentle bends so that you can kind of maintain your speed, but by no means do you get huge straight sections. Even this straight section that we just added there is pretty straight for the area that I grew up in. So, it's just gives a character, makes it feel like you're following the terrain a little bit when you kind of give these things slight curves, and even raising and lowering elevation a little bit will provide the same type of feeling. On-off ramps, they can be a little challenging to do depending on how you do them. I want the on-off ramps to have dirt supports and not really be supported by pillars. In fact, I feel like some more of this area could have been more dirt, kind of raised mound kind of looks to them. But the pillars do lend itself for a city look, or a look where that's going to allow for roads to kind of stream underneath the highway to allow for other sections without hopefully breaking up the town too much. Now, these towns that we're going to be working on initially, these are going to be a small town. We're going to have a lot of small towns, and small might end up being a relative sort of term when it comes to this game. I don't know how big they'll end up growing once we start kind of laying in a lot of industries and delivering products, but we'll have to take that as we go. Add gravel underneath here, because a lot of these type of areas will have kind of just gravel filled in, just to kind of keep the plant life from attaching itself to the concrete and potentially causing some damage down the road there. This intersection, the first one that we did just a standard on-off ramp. This side, if I did a standard on-off ramp, you can see how close those things would have been to each other, and I was worried about traffic flow at that point. So I decided to do something a bit different on this one and just do a Trumpet interchange. Usually these are kind of reserved for two major roads kind of connecting to each other, and it allows for no slowdown. Essentially, your on-off is going to be just a merge lane that you can either go off onto. The merge lanes are very long, and you get this loop, kind of like the number 9 going over your crossway there. So it's a cool looking one. I think I made the loop a little too big, but I kind of committed to the style in a certain radius. That's one of the cool mods that we have installed. You'll notice it every now and then is when I'm laying down a piece, I'm getting numbers, that little number box there. And that's telling me, how long this road length is, what is the radius of its turn, and its degree of slope. So that's going to provide a good amount of information. And the video paused here for a little bit. Okay, there we go. I think I walked out of the room or something there to take a bit of a break. The connection point here that you use to kind of bring these together, this is pretty hard to do without, like, say, the tool from City Skylines, like Move It. And it's a little annoying because you don't have a whole lot of accuracy when you do this kind of stuff in Transport Fever, so you're going to kind of be fiddling with it. I decided not to fiddle with it too long. I can always come back and kind of redesign these a little bit to bring them more in line, but you can see the left on-ramp and the right side that's going to go up to the interstate all just flow onto itself There's no need for stoplights. There's no need for any of that because you're never going to get a crossing of traffic. It's all just going to be merging seamlessly into one another. And then this highway is going to go up all the way up the coastline and connect a lot of our other kind of towns and stuff in the future. So that'll be cool. And this road work, I'll get faster at it as I kind of get used to the gameplay again. So definitely get tucked in for that as we get used to what we need to do. Here we are with the parking lots, trying to play with them a little bit more. The normal parking lots are one-way streets, which to me is fine. I wish they weren't, though. I wish there were two ways. These one-way streets would be fine for, like, street side parking or something like that, if I wanted just a road down the middle and provide parking otherwise, but it'll work. It's fine. Decided to just make a larger parking lot and just do an L shape around the bus station there, and I might go back in and add some trees and foliage just to kind of liven up the area, make it tie it all together. But now we get to the big part of the build. Outside the road layout itself. I downloaded additional kind of factory options and industrial options for this save because I just wanted to see what else there was. I don't know if I have the load order correct because I don't think this coffee bean area or the ale house here that we just plopped down have a delivery point even when we load in the town. And I try to make it to where every town requires every need from the get-go so that we can kind of just ship everything everywhere else. And, that's just the way it is. I'll have to play with that as we get through the series and hopefully those become a little bit more useful. But what am I doing here? This is me testing out a whole bunch of different assets. A lot of these additional mods that I have are usually in like German or something, so a lot of the times I can't read them as to what they are, so I have to kind of place everything down just to see what it does. And then some of them, obviously aren't named. They might just be named 1, 2, 3, 4 all the way up to like number 120, and unless you know what number you're looking for, you kind of have to go through them all to find stuff. So these are all like harbor pack stuff because I wasn't sure what type of map I was going to be getting on this one. In the last series we did a lot of waterway building, but I didn't have any mods for them, so the waterways ended up looking pretty basic in my opinion, and this would be a way to add additional detail to them. So I just wanted to test, plop some of these down, see what it kind of looks like, flip them around, see how well they clip into the water, see what the different variations are. Some of them are more canal-like with their sloped edge, others are more like seaport-wise with their hard straight edge and tires hanging off for boats docking up there. But I figured this river is a little narrow, so I just abandoned that. It's just playing around and having some fun here. There's some underground station mods too, which is me, I'm just playing with this now. And while it does have this weird terrain thing where it's just kind of cutting away the terrain, I might be able to hide that with buildings eventually or something. And we can maybe think about doing a subway system. I don't quite know how all this works, and I might have to take a lot of time to kind of read up on the mod and figure it out myself. But subways would be a good way to get additional passengers moving across the town without adding a whole bunch of ground traffic, right? There's stadium add-ons. I just grabbed a whole bunch of add-ons for this save, guys. It's going to be pretty interesting. Tram add-ons for that, so that you can get trolleys going up and down the street and stations in line with street level, different bus station shapes. There's even a Greyhound station that I found, even freight station variations that will provide hopefully a decent amount of throughput for us. This freight station ends up getting moved eventually. We'll add a few little side streets, single kind of unmarked roads for alleyways. Alleyways are great for freight You can always kind of fit a just unload point back there and take them off the main road where you can with that kind of stuff. The main train line into this town is going to be a four platform kind of area. There's obviously room for a fifth there, but the outside 2 lanes that's going to be reserved for through traffic is just going to go up next to the platforms, just to keep things nice and tidy. This initial rendition here of the track layout does get changed. I start with kind of this simplistic, everything kind of takes one road in, one road out, or rail in and out. While that in theory works, as these platforms come online, you're going to get that major bottleneck there. So we do end up changing that a little bit later down the speed build kind of route after I think about it a little bit more. But this will get us the initial shape of the curves and the tracks so that we can kind of plan for additional buildings and placement of potential train kind of houses so that we can get trains onto the track itself. We'll also add a track yard tracks to here so that we can use some train decorations, snap them to the rail so that we can get the good old full train station or stored kind of yard look. Always a wonderful look to have in these type of things. Our yard is going to be pretty small in this area. We might end up making elsewhere a much larger yard, but I feel like every freight station needs some sort of holding yard just to store some additional wagons, maybe for transfer, or they're empty and they're just kind of waiting to be loaded and you just want them off the platform, something like that. I don't know much about train yards and the actual real world kind of functionality to them. I just know that they have them and I wanted to include some. So that's just what we did. It's important for me to include some roads and parking lots next to some of these buildings and also get them hooked up to the main road as well. This will make it a little bit more believable that people will come into this area and park along the street. Maybe the people that just work in this train yard, maybe the people that work in the factories, they all kind of need some parking lots and spaces, and making things connected and feel connected I think is super important for this type of series. Even in City Skylines, right? You're essentially making little model scenes. Okay, if you think about these games like it's just one big model simulation, and you're going in, you're just making each little section have its own little story. That's how you can get through these type of builds. You want to go in there and be like, okay, well, who works here? What's their mindset? What is the environment like that they work in? We'll take away all the grass around the rail yard, make it a little bit more of an asphalt gravel, because it's just lower maintenance for the people. You don't have to hire like people to cut the grass or trim it. They can just kind of add more gravel in spots that are needed. Very low maintenance cost to that. And you also already have a bunch of gravel since you're a train yard. Trains by each tie post generally have gravel by them, so I'm sure they just have a surplus of gravel around. We do take the train yard all the way to the edge of the map, like I said I would earlier. That's just the way to do it. And I do try and make this kind of outbound, technically it's the inbound lane because this is the end of the line when it comes to gameplay, follow a certain height marker. That's usually how I like to work with my train lines. Is I don't want a lot of height variation in there. I want to try and follow a certain degree mark for as long as possible so that it can kind of have time to work that natural bend around hillsides. Oh my god, I need a drink because I haven't done commentary in a long time, and I've been talking 23 minutes straight. I'm running out of things to say. I'm putting down tankers because why not? And different props. You can see there's 118 in this list, and I don't know what any of them are, and you just try them and try and come up with ideas. Sweet release of liquid. Wonderful. Amazing. Yum. There's going to be a bit of a skip. You guys probably noticed the town kind of popped up, by the way. I went ahead and placed that in. That took a couple save loads because the town wanted to not populate the other side of the river. It was super important that I get the town to spread across both sides initially so that I know it can grow on both sides. Otherwise, we just are going to have to make two separate towns and call them the same thing. But the problem with that is you're just going to need so much more shipping in this area to make both towns grow that your traffic is essentially double by default, and that's no good. I just don't want that in this area. There's a dead space because we added a different kind of truck stop down there, and I wanted to add a little bit more of a truck warehouse look so that these things can feel like they can be loaded, and so luckily with the mod assets that we have the ability to use the goods factory, and those have a lot of kind of shipping doors and ports, and that's what we use. We just kind of plop that down as a big warehouse kind of look to it. Plop down this road. I made this little archway there, and I'll even put a road through there just to make it feel a little bit more finished. And at this point it's just about kind of trying to figure out how you want to hook this up to the main road, and I decided a little bit away would be good. Everyone kind of just gets thrown into that curved parking lot, which has some space for trucks and stuff, and we'll go ahead and start plopping that down. I found a sign for Transport Fever. Transport Fever trading hub made sense to me. We can add these trucks to the spaces here. I'm just gonna go with a standard like Peterbilt kind of truck. I do have modded trucks in the game, but all this parking lot stuff, I'm gonna just use these standard assets because I'm hoping they're lower poly count, and I'm hoping they're a little bit more optimized for the base game itself. We'll try and use Era 2 and Era 3 vehicles, kind of mix and match. More Era 3, less Era 2, but it's the 90s. We can have some Volkswagen Bugs and some good old hippie vans here and there. I think that's pretty good. I upgraded the factories at some point. That helps me kind of see the future of what this area is going to look like. Though I might keep them fully upgraded just because it looks better. I have infinite money, and we have the developer tools turned on, so I might as well make this place look as good as possible. At this point, I'm realizing that this track layout is just not going to work for us, so restarting it is kind of really the best option I have, and get this thing started. We have to delete some fences, which is really an annoying thing to do, but hey, that's sometimes what you get when you get to reform an area here. Make it a version 2, and I think this version makes a lot more sense, right? You're gonna have a lot of the lane changes before the actual main line or after, depending on which direction you're coming in to the freight yard, and that's going to hopefully increase the throughput a little bit more. It's probably still not going to be very high throughput through here. We're going to have a lot of traffic problems, but that's kind of dependent on what's coming into here long term and leaving here long term. So hopefully it won't be too bad, but you just kind of never know until you start shipping things. This did change the kind of layout of the train yard a little bit, but honestly I think this shape looks
a lot more natural, kind of highlighting the shape of the ridge that the train yard ended up being on. And I don't know, I really like it. I like making train yards. Train yards are just kind of really fun to make. I know nothing about them from a realistic point of view, but I just think they always look cool. It makes an area feel very filled in and complete whenever you have those type of things. We'll add some lights to those parking spots, add additional parked empty wagons, even some liquid containers, and we filled in some trees. We have an overall pretty good start, I think, to this town. Yeah, it's looking good. All right, everyone, welcome to the town. Everything is looking pretty good. We generated a little bit of a town in the middle of the field. I kind of cut that because it took a little while to kind of... I did a bunch of save load iterations until the town actually generated across the river. Unlike our last save, the town is going to be a single registered area and then expand from there. Our last attempt at this, we did essentially 3 towns or 4 towns around a large bay. And this time I'm going to try and just grow this individual town and kind of go from there. We've been working mostly on the west bank, and it looks like that's where most of the buildings were generated too. So this looks the most complete for us. And overall, with the mods and everything, things are looking pretty good. Not as accurate or as pretty as you could probably get in City Skylines, but with Transport Fever, transporting goods is kind of the primary goal, right? So here is the large 4-platform station for cargo to come in to the area. We do have a little bit of a sidetrack with storage for some wagons and cars that are just kind of hanging out, which looks pretty good. This is all on a gentle slope, which is interesting, that the building even slopes like this using the mods. Now, the wagons don't, so they are a little weird looking at times because they don't have that to them, but honestly, it's probably for safety regulations because if this thing was truly on a slope, all these wagons would just kind of roll down around the bend. So we'll just say they just have their brakes on, or they're up on little brake pads or something like that. Who knows? I don't know. Little walls getting added here. I don't want to add too much detail yet because, of course, all this could change dramatically depending on what we want to do. I just want to try and start playing with some detail so that I can kind of see what our options are in this series, because when you add mods, you kind of have to go through and pick and choose what you like and kind of go from there. So, adding cars, adding little walls, extra tanks attached to depots, or like an extra outdoor tank like this attached to a depot as well, and maybe some catwalks going over to here. Just playing with ideas and basic little concepts. And we got the coffee refinery, which I've kind of force upgraded so I could see everything. It really helps with laying out the area. If I know what the building may end up looking like in the future, or I can just keep it this level going forward so that it's just fully developed and looks good. We got a Transport Fever hub here. This is just using assets from the food kind of factory itself to make a kind of like a warehouse and shipping depot, because across the street is where things get loaded up on this modded kind of terminal here for cargo. So there's actually, I think there's 10 spots for trucks to be loaded up on. Probably not going to use all 10. We'll maybe use 4-5 spots total. It's got a double entryway, which will hopefully help with the throughput. We don't know. I've not used this yet, so this is going to be the big test of it. I just like how compact it is for how much vehicle you can fit on there. We get the alcohol distillery. So this will be accepting grain at some point here. We have the highway in the background there. We get 2 different type of junctions, right? A standard on-off ramp, or the Trumpet sort of interchange there for the 2 main roads through the town. The town is currently called Winfield, so that's what we're sticking with here. I'm kind of thinking of small town names because none of these are going to get into like large cityscapes, and we're going to be next episode working on another town up the river. We're going to go ahead and lay out the one that probably spans all 3 of these land masses here, so that we can then move on to we might be able to get a town here and a town here, maybe one up the river this way. And the reason I want so many more towns is each one's going to have a specific productions area associated to it, so that we can actually get some interstate commerce going across and start using the highways, start using the train rails, and kind of go from there. And of course, if we can get trains going up and down, these are more like large train commuter lines. So there's just going to be a northbound and a southbound kind of lane. There's no slip lane or anything like that, because all these trains are going to stop on every station. So we don't need to really worry about bypassing a station to get through to anywhere specifically. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. It's looking pretty good. I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode of Transport Fever. If you guys want, feel free to like the video for more creative goodness such as this on the channel, and you can subscribe or as well become a member today to unlock emotes for when we live stream. I might be live streaming this series as well in between episodes, just to bring more content, work on some detailing live. And if you guys have any suggestions, let me know. Till then, we'll see you all in the next video.